With Season 1 right around the corner, you might be thinking about trying a new class, and this Sorceress build is awesome. It's fun, easy to play, and it is fast. It excels at clearing groups of monsters and has some of the fastest clear speed I've seen at low levels. This build is known for being top tier, one of the best leveling builds in fact, so it's a great pick for starting Season 1. This build is the Chain Lightning Sorcerer, but before we get into the build, don't forget to click that like button, subscribe, and check me out on Twitch to see live gameplay. Let's begin, starting with the skill tree. So the first thing you're going to want to get is Arc Lash, and then you're going to get 1 point into Enhanced Arc Lash. So that swipes an additional time when you get a critical strike. This is really strong, and it's going to help you basically clear faster with your basic skill. In the core skill tree, of course, we're going the namesake Chain Lightning. We're getting Chain Lightning because it does amazing damage, but also it bounces around and actually just clears your entire screen very easily without you really having to focus very much on where the monsters are. It'll just, honestly, it'll even destroy destructibles. It'll just bounce around, and that can be a little bit unpredictable sometimes. You'd rather it hit a monster than a destructible, right? We're going to get Enhanced Chain Lightning and Greater Chain Lightning. So it's going to bounce off of you, it's going to deal increased damage, and here it's going to deal increased 3% increased critical strike chance per bounce. So that's really nice. We're also going to go over to the defensive part of the tree and pick up Teleport, Ice Armor, and Frost Nova. All three of these are perfect for this build, of course. Teleport makes us unstoppable. It's really important if you're playing a hardcore character because you don't want to die. This is going to help you not only get around, but get out of any type of crowd control. This is going to decrease your cooldown on teleport. If you hit at least, more enemies, you're going to get more reduction on your teleport. Here we have Shimmering Teleport. You get 30% damage reduction after teleporting, which is really nice. Over here with Ice Armor, we're just going to get Enhanced Ice Armor. While Ice Armor is active, your mana regeneration is increased by 25%. This basically incentivizes you to just use this as much as you possibly can. It's also a barrier, but really we're going to go for that mana regen because it's so important to try to keep your mana up. And then we're going to get Frost Nova here, of course. Enhanced Frost Nova. It's going to reduce your cooldown by 1 second whenever you kill enemies frozen by Frost Nova, and then Mystical Frost Nova. Frost Nova makes enemies vulnerable for 4 seconds, increased to 6 seconds against bosses, which is really great. Vulnerability is so good in Diablo 4, is crazy good, and this is where we're going to get our vulnerability from Frost Nova, which is really important. Now, I typically get these a little bit later. We're going to want to max out Chain Lightning if you haven't already, and then you're going to want to get Glass Cannon. So that's sort of the order in which you want to do things. Glass Cannon is so great. You deal 18% increased damage, but take 9% more damage. Now, don't worry. We are going to get some stuff that give us some DR to hopefully make our character a little bit more tanky. Then from there, we're actually going to get 1 point into Devastation, increase your maximum mana by 3, and then 3 points into Elemental Dominance. Your core skills deal 9% increased damage when cast above 50 mana. So what I find I like to do is just keep my mana always above 50% before I cast those Chain Lightnings. Now from there, we can actually start getting some of these other skills, Align the Elements. This is going to give you some of that DR we were just talking about. You gain 1% damage reduction against elites for each second you haven't taken damage from one, up to 40%. So you can go into a fight with 40% damage reduction against elites, which is really, really nice. And keep in mind, elites are not just champions in elites, it's also bosses, world bosses. Align the Elements is fantastic. We're also going to get Mana Shield every time you spend 100 mana. You get 15% DR for 5 seconds, really strong. And then Protection, using a cooldown, grants 30% of your maximum life as a barrier for 2 seconds. And we've got really, like, what does this say? A cooldown. So Frost Nova is a cooldown, Ice Armor is a cooldown, and also Teleport's a cooldown. So we're going to be getting lots of maximum life as a barrier every time we use these cooldowns. We're also going to get Icy Veil to make these barriers last 15% longer. So things like Ice Armor lasts longer. The barrier we get from Protection lasts longer. It's all going to be very, very helpful to make our barriers last longer. All right, so once we Icy Veil, we're going to have unlocked our ultimate skill tree. We're going to get Unstable Currents. And actually also at this time, you're probably wondering what your enchantment slot is. And the one that we're going to get right here is Firebolt. And the reason we're getting Firebolt is because check out this enchantment. Direct damage from skills applies additional burning damage over 8 seconds. So just having this burning on enemies is going to unlock a lot of really awesome things actually. And we're going to start getting those skills. Right here we have Inner Flames. So this is really a prereq for Devouring Blaze. You deal 30% increased critical strike damage against burning enemies. If they're also immobilized, this bonus is increased to 75%. So we're getting 30% increased critical strike damage now because enemies are going to be burning thanks to our enchantment, but also Fiery Surge. Killing a burning enemy increases your mana regeneration by 30%. This is huge. And then we're going to get Endless Pyre. It increases your burning, makes them burn longer, but more importantly, we got Warmth. Every 1 second you heal for basically 1% of your max life. For each nearby burning enemy, healing increased to 1.8% from bosses. So we've got more survivability here with Warmth and this awesome mana regeneration from Fiery Surge. Absolutely love it. We are going to upgrade Unstable Currents to Prime Prime Unstable Currents, and Supreme Unstable Currents. Check this out though. Lightning surges within you for 10 seconds. Whenever you cast a shock skill, a random core, conjuration, or mastery shock skill is also cast. So you're going to start seeing things like lightning spear go all over the place. You're going to see things like charged bolts. I saw this guy right here, ball lightning. I see these fly all over the place whenever you use your shock skills. So that's really cool. Also in the ultimate tree, we want to get coursing currents. Hitting enemies with shock skills increases your critical strike chance by 1%. Resets upon getting a critical strike. So every time you hit an enemy with your shock skills, crit chance is going to go up by 1%. And here, enemies deal 10% less damage for 5 seconds after being critically struck by your shock skills. So we're basically going to be getting a lot of crit because of coursing currents. And then check this out. Devouring Blaze gives you 30% increased critical strike damage. So great synergy between those two skills. Then finally over here, we're getting Veer's Mastery. I love this. It says close enemies take 10% increased damage from your shock skills and deal 20% less damage to you. Critical strikes increase these bonuses by 25% for 3 seconds. Now the reason I love this ability because it now encourages us to be in melee range. If you remember, we have Arc Lash as our basic skill, which is melee. This is actually a melee ability basically. And so we're going to be in melee range using all of our shock skills, getting all those bonuses, which is really, really nice. And so this is the skill tree. It's really awesome. I think it's fantastic. I've been having a lot of fun with this. This is probably one of my favorite builds actually. Let's go talk about the legendary aspects, the gems, the skills, enchantments. We talked a little bit about some of them, but we're going to go a little more in depth. So aspect of disobedience, the best aspect in the game, defensive, I should say. You gain 0.5% increased armor every time you deal any form of damage, stacking up to 50%. So 50% more armor. Armor is such a great stat. Not only does it make your physical damage reduction go up, it also increases your resistances to all elements. So good. Try to get this as soon as you can. You can unlock this by completing Halls of the Damned in Kyrgyzstan. Snowveiled aspect says casting ice armor makes you unstoppable for 2 to 3 seconds, unlocked by completing Surat's Lair in Skazglen. This is great because it's another source of unstoppable, which is so important to keep control of your character, get out of crowd control, especially if you're playing hardcore. Aspect of the expectant in your gloves, unlocked by completing Underroot in Skazglen. Attacking enemies with a basic skill increases the damage of your next core skill cast by 5 to 10%, up to 30%. This is great because we actually don't want to attack with our core skill unless we have 50% or more mana, thanks to our skill here, which is called Elemental Dominance, right? And so we want that 9% increased damage. So use your core skill, which is going to give you increased damage on your next core skill anyways, get above 50% mana, and then cast your core skill. So a little bit of nuance to play this correctly, but very, very synergistic with the way we're going to be playing anyways. Aspect of Might, basic skills grant 20% DR for 2 seconds, up to 6 seconds, unlocked by completing Dark Ravine and Dry Steps. Perfect, because we're going to be using our basic skill to generate mana as well. Aspect of Control in the Amulet, you deal 25% more damage to immobilize, stunned, or frozen enemies. We're going to be stunning enemies with Arc Lash. We're going to be freezing enemies with Frost Nova. So it's absolutely going to be beneficial for us to have that bonus damage unlocked by completing Sunken Library in Kyrgyzstan. Recharging aspect, each time Chain Lightning bounces off of you, gain 4 to 6 mana. Awesome. It bounces a lot more than you'd think, so your mana is really going to thank you for this ability. And you can unlock this by completing Zenith in Fractured Peaks. Then Prodigy's aspect, using a cooldown restores 25 mana. We have 4 different spells with cooldowns. Now that we have our ultimate, we have Unstable Currents, Frost Nova, Ice Armor, and Teleport, all with cooldowns. And each time you use them, we're going to get 15 mana back. Very, very strong one. Unlocked by completing Witch Water in Hawazar. Awesome. So the gems. Emerald here, increase critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. This is amazing. We have high crit. We're going to be generating vulnerability through our Frost Nova, and then basically we're going to increase our crit strike damage. And this is a great multiplier to increase your damage. Increase our maximum life with rubies, which is really nice. Always want to increase that max life. By the way, there's synergy there. We get a percentage of our max life back from warmth. You can see here, heal for 1% of your max life. So the more max life we have, the more life we're going to be getting back from warmth. So this is a great synergy there. And then this jewelry here, no brainer. Just put skulls in your jewelry because armor is just so overpowered. And then the enchantment. So the first one you're going to want to get is Chain Lightning. Automatically forms after spending 100 mana. And then as you start to have those extra skill points ready to get those fire skill passives, get Firebolt so that now your abilities are applying burning damage over 8 seconds, and you can get warmth. You can get all of those different mana regeneration, all those awesome bonuses, increased critical strike chance from attacking burning enemies. So this is the build. It's so much fun. Honestly, out of all the builds I've been playing, this is probably one of my favorites. I love how Chain Lightning just bounces to all the enemies on your screen. It's kind of a lazy way to play because you can just click once and I didn't even know a guy was behind me, and the Chain Lightning went and hit him. So it's a lot of fun and really strong, honestly. And again, it's really one of the fastest leveling builds I've experienced. My character is just plowing through the levels. I can't even believe I'm almost like level 30 or something. So really great build. Highly recommend. Link to this in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to click that like button. Subscribe for more. My name's Toyhouze. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.